Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cerise, the series in which I build a European city in City Skylines 2. Welcome back. Today, we are going to be expanding the lovely small town that we have right now. And I decided, I think going southward was a safe bet because, well, going north, going east would have resulted in me having to get more tiles, and I felt like that wasn't quite realistic for the city just yet. Even though I definitely bought tiles previously, oh well. I wanted to start connecting the town on the hill a bit better with the canal district that I'm soon going to develop down by the waterfront. And so I decided I wanted to make that transition a bit more natural, so I started developing in that direction. So I first started off with laying out some roads and decided that it would be organic for a little town square to occur right there at the intersection of those two main roads. And now, I say main roads, but they're really just two laners. But they're main roads in terms of this town, you know? I'm not going to build another avenue yet. That would just be a bit much. Right? It's a small town. We don't need all that yet. So I started sort of inching towards that direction and was thinking that I wanted a fair amount of density in this part of town. So I started plopping down some row homes and started putting in some commercial as well to start getting things going in that area. After letting things develop for a minute, I thought I'd put a couple small apartments near the industrial area to make it a bit more a part of the city. Although, that being said, that is probably the worst place to live, maybe ever. There, right across the way is the view of these massive smokestacks, which I kind of want to get rid of. Like there's so many. Maybe I'll zone some smaller industrial or just kind of make that an office exclusive area. But I do think it is slightly too close to the residential area. So I will likely tackle that soon. However, as a starter industrial area, it'll be fine. And as far as I could tell, no one was really complaining about the pollution. Although, with the wind going in the direction it is, it could become a potential problem in the future. So I just wanted to make sure. I should make sure in the future to be aware of that. I zoned a couple more houses on the periphery of the little town just to give it a little bit more of a filled out look. And of course, because demand was rising again for single family homes, which I will build reluctantly, although I don't like them nearly as much as the look of the denser buildings. But with a small town like this, it's inevitable. Around this time is when I decided that some road surfaces would be a valuable addition to the city. And so, just in time for the winter, it's fall in this city, but winter will soon come, and I do not want to be unprepared for that. That would just be so sad. Just completely no plowing on the roads, just a terrible time. And I can't have that happen for my citizens. I care about them more than to let that happen. And then I filled in a little bit more industry down there. This is when I started realizing that having the industrial zone and residential zones within the same block was a bit strange. So I tried to kind of separate them off with a retaining wall, which, definitely won't get rid of the view and the smell of the smokestacks, but it's at least a visual separation. So there's that. But that will definitely have to go at some point. Although I do like the look of the retaining wall. I do think it looks cool. Here's when I decided I really wanted to make this like a proper square. Like in the Massachusetts sense of it. Like kind of like just a place where the roads just kind of converge and are also just like weird as hell, because it's like designed for horses. Granted, this is supposed to be a Euro city, but I feel like that's kind of like a European style. You know, they didn't have cars when they're developing their cities. They had horses, for God's sake. So, and of course I had to put a roundabout because what's more European than that, huh? And then I decided to take out all the parking because I thought being able to park right next to that little weird square was just kind of weird. I want to make this area really pedestrian focused, even though there's like a bunch of crazy intersections. I want, you know, even though it's like a bunch of roads and stuff like that, I want it to be very crazy design wise so that cars have to slow down when they go through it so that people can enjoy the space. Because I do want this to be a very pedestrian focused area. You know, there aren't any pedestrian roads here per se, but you know, I did want this to have like a lively character to it. And to have that, you gotta have, you know, you gotta have trees, and you have to have like areas that aren't completely car centric and, you know, have parking everywhere, you know? So, I decided to zone up a little bit of density, but that was a bit too dense for my liking. As you know, we only have 1,600 people. I thought it'd be a bit crazy to have this huge, residential tower. I felt like it was too soon for that. So, but I am definitely looking for a little bit of height in this part of town. So zoning some low density commercial, even though it's kind of my least favorite, but, you know, eventually we can zone up a bit. And then in all the kind of negative space where it was impossible to zone, I decided to put some paths down and incorporate some trees, which I think is just a great go-to. It always leaves things looking more whole in the city. Plopping my trees down in a line. Really, at this point, I'm thinking like, why don't I have the straight line tool yet? I know it exists. I know the City Skylines 2, I don't know if it's a mod or something, but I've seen it in action. I've seen people use it where they just draw trees out in a line, and it just looks so helpful. And so I should really invest in that. I've been too lazy to do it, but I should just do it. You could argue that it's the less lazy thing to do because then it'll make drawing out trees so much easier. I don't know. But even despite that, I've still managed to put down a bunch of trees and bushes. At first I made those streets one ways, which at first seemed like a good idea, but then I later came to realize that to get up there, people would up that road, people would have to like take a right and then go around, but then I also banned left turns between Butler Street and Fairview Street, so I later came to correct that and just made Elk Street a two-way the whole way, even though it has that strange slip lane. But I feel like in this case it's not really a slip lane, it's more like a glide lane. Because I don't like to think of it as like cars slipping through. I like to think about it in terms of like, you know, it's just like an alternative route. Anyways, I decided to start districting here. I called that new square that I plopped Place du Jardin. Not to get French on y'all. Which means garden square. Because I thought like all the little trees and bushes I put around the square were really like resembling like garden. I thought it was really cute. And then the area where I started the town, I called Sous la colline, which, I mean, is okay. It just means on the hill in French, but I feel like it's almost too on the nose or also pretentious. I guess anything in French sounds pretentious. I decided to plop down some trees to make it even more separation between the residential townhomes just on the bottom side of that block and some parks down. And then after a while, I decided, you know what? Maybe we don't need houses here in general. Maybe we should just make this whole little area a park, just to give these people a nice little separation. And I thought it turned out really nice. I thought the kind of weird polygonal shape of the block really lent itself to just a cute little park area. And then I put some houses nearby so they can enjoy their new parks. It was at this point I realized that there weren't any taxi stops anywhere, so I started placing some down by the school, the town center of Sur-la-Colline, the graveyard, Place du Jardin. I tried not to put it too much in the center because I do want taxis to be able to enter it. I don't want it to like clog up the square too much, so I put it right on Butler Street on the edge. And also, I was trying to figure out in my head of like, how could I place the taxi stop so that people come into this part of town rather than leave it? And if that would mean like the right side of the road or the left side of the road. But I think I was just overthinking it. It was at this point I was starting to get really happy with how Place du Jardin was looking. I thought it was like, I mean, it looks weird. I know. It like the road layout is kind of crazy, but I kind of liked the craziness of it. I felt like it was the perfect kind of center point of a new town square. And I decided to take a break from Place du Jardin for a bit and decided to build a high school because the people need to be educated, damn it. And the elementary school was not going to cut it alone. So I decided to plop one down. I first placed it on that street down there, but I thought that would need to be more of a connection for the industrial area to access the main road / highway. So I decided I wanted to build a separate road for the highway, and then instead of connecting this little industrial connector feeder road, whatever you want to call it, I decided to actually kind of build it under, just so the trucks don't have to, constantly be waiting for people crossing. And also I don't want a bunch of high schoolers like dying in a truck crash. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't want that. So I decided to try to make it as pedestrian oriented as possible. I created this nice little bridge across that goes into this neighborhood. And I'm okay with it for now. I tried to put like a little park down too. Although I do, one thing I don't like is that it is still pretty isolated from town. I mean, it is a really big building, so I didn't want to demolish a bunch of houses because I really liked how it was looking in Sur-la-Colline. And also I'd already done so much detailing that I just didn't want to erase all my progress. So I guess it is more realistic anyways to build the school like slightly farther away rather than demolish a bunch of houses. And I do plan to develop near the school in the future anyways, either by way of park or more housing maybe south of it. I put down this pedestrian path in the middle of this block to try to make it even more pedestrian oriented, and I think that started to make things a bit cleaner. I decided to stretch up the highway a bit and urbanize it to try to make cars have to slow down a little bit on Prospect Street. Because I wanted this, pedestrian path to like have an easy exit, I don't want people to have to exit and cars are going like, 70 miles per hour. I don't want that. I decided to put down a football field, even though that is completely American. I decided, you know what, it could be a soccer field or football in England. It was at this point I reached tiny town once and for all. Was very happy about that because of the money. No, but also because of the expansion permits and, of course, the points to unlock new nodes on the development tree. And so, after I stopped reveling in this milestone, I got to work. And I was very happy to see I'd finally unlocked mixed housing, which is my favorite, pretty much my favorite of all the building types. I just love it. I can't get enough of it. Maybe it's just because we never got to see it in City Skylines 1. I decided the skinny pedestrian path that was previously put, that's alliteration for you, was a bit too skinny and wanted to allow for a bit more volume of people. So I decided to just build a pedestrian bridge with the pedestrian road that you can just zone on. And decided to just connect it up with the alleyway to make this weird roundabout thing, which I'm not sure how I feel about right now. It's a bit strange, but it may work out yet. I'm going to let it sit for a while and see how I feel. After a while, I decided to just make this whole area around the high school a park because, it was going to be difficult anyways to zone on that hill and to develop on it. So I thought, you know what, this could just be a kind of, I want to respect the terrain a little bit, especially after I flattened so much land for the canal city down by the water. I decided, let's respect this nice little hill that we have given to us. So I put a little path up, a little hiking trail, plopped down some more trees and bushes to give the people a bit more recreation. And I felt like the high schoolers could use like a little makeout point, I also put down a telecom tower and then relocated it promptly onto the hill because I felt like it made perfect sense for it to go there. And I felt kind of justified in putting little paths up there. And it was at this point we had our first snow, even though it was only fall. So great to know that climate change does not exist in the City Skylines 2 universe. No, just kidding. I guess it could just be also that it's just a lot colder of an area. But yeah, I was starting to feel a lot better about things. I decided to plop down a taxi stand right in front of the school just so the kids could get there. And I tried to draw out something with the bushes. I think it was supposed to be an eagle, but then I realized it looked nothing like an eagle, so I gave up. Then I unlocked Vertigo Square, which I was really excited about, so I just plopped down right in this little neighborhood I created by the school. Then I finally decided to district the industrial area, which may soon become a no longer industrial area. We'll see. I eventually called it Ville de Travail, which, if you know French, is very unoriginal. It literally means work city. But I thought it was funny, so screw it, It was at this point that I realized that, the city was coming along great, and I needed to step away from it to let it properly develop a little bit before I continued. So this is where I will leave you for today. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.